In this video, I'll give you a tour of Social Psychology Network with an emphasis on resources of interest to students, which isn't difficult because the network began as a resource for students. SPN was born in 1996 as an ugly duckling web syllabus for my social psychology course at Wesleyan, and it didn't really become a professional network until 1999 when the U.S. National Science Foundation began funding it. So thank you, NSF. In 2004, two leading professional societies, the Society for Personality and Social Psychology and the Society of Experimental Social Psychology, both became sponsors of the network. And in 2005, SPN became a member organization. It also has wonderful staff members and student interns who work around the clock, literally nights, weekends, holidays, to keep the network running and available 24 hours a day. So what exactly is Social Psychology Network, and what are its goals? Well, as you can see on the homepage of socialpsychology.org, the mission is to promote peace, social justice, and sustainable living through public education, research, and the advancement of psychology. So, to take just one example, suppose that you were interested in either learning or teaching about the topic of racism. One thing you could do would be to search SPN's database of more than 20,000 classified links by typing the keyword racism into the search field here. Let's do that. And when we hit return, we'll get all manner of results. It might be organizations, researchers, events, publications, and so on. Now let's suppose that we're particularly interested in, say, books on racism. We can drill down by clicking on the Publications tab, and then under that we can see Books, and we'll click on those, and there we have a number of books on racism, and not only that, but we have links to book reviews. SPN also has an advanced search in which you can specify the type of item you're looking for, say a college course. And we can pop open that category to further specify whether we're looking for a distance learning course or a regular course. And by the way, if you're interested in distance learning resources, SPN has a page specifically devoted to that in its navigation menu on the left. And on that page, you'll find degree programs in psychology, MOOCs, and much more. For instance, if we click on MOOCs, we're taken to that part of the page, and we can scroll through a list of free online courses. You might have noticed that SPN also has partner sites. These are sites that the Social Psychology Network team designed and manages on our web server. During our course, we'll use several of these partner sites, beginning with the randomizer form on Research Randomizer in assignment number 1. Another point of interest. SPN maintains topical pages that go way beyond social psychology, everything from clinical psychology to cultural psychology to neuroscience to peace psychology. In fact, let's click on peace psychology, and what you'll see is that these pages begin with a table of contents on specific topics. So in this case, you see Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., and graduate studies in peace psychology. If we zoom back to the top of the page, you'll see that graduate programs in social and personality psychology can also be searched geographically. For example, let's click on, Asia, and maybe click on one of the programs in India, which pops open a bubble with a link that will in turn take us right to that graduate program's website. So there it is. Or if I close this window and type in a location like CA, short for California, we're taken to that geographic area, and we can click on specific programs in the side panel. So let's see, I'll click on the University of California at Berkeley. Wonderful school, there's the bubble, and if I click on the link, I'm again taken to the program. For anyone contemplating a career in psychology, the Online Psychology Career Center is another resource that might interest you. There's a direct link listed a few lines above the distance learning page in the navigation menu on the left, and the Career Center includes everything from searchable job databases to tips on graduate school, internships, and financial aid. Let me just mention a few other resources that were developed specifically with students in mind. I'll go fast because you can always rewind the video. SPN has a job forum that allows you to receive email alerts whenever a particular type of job opens up that might interest you. For example, you could request alerts if a postdoctoral position opens up in Australia, one of my favorite countries. Another key element of the network is that it contains a searchable directory of approximately 2,000 social psychology experts from 50 different countries. One way to search for experts is through a map, similar to the graduate program map that I showed earlier. Or you can search the directory through the Directories menu here. If you're interested in a particular topic, say obedience, you can search all SPN profiles by typing a keyword or phrase into this field. So we'll just type obedience. And then once the results come in, I'll click on the top result so that you can see what a profile page looks like. There we go. As you can see, SPN profiles have tabs with an overview statement, publications, contact information, and anything else the profile holders decided to add, just as you might create a profile in Facebook or LinkedIn. For example, we can click on Publications by Professor Blass and flip through his books, some of which will actually be mentioned later in the course when we discuss research on obedience. We can also search the directory by research interests. So let's look for someone with expertise on attitudes, prejudice, intergroup relations, neuroscience, and let's throw in the internet for good measure. Because we combined so many different areas of expertise, there's currently only one person who covers them all, Mahzarin Banaji of Harvard University. And if we click on her profile, there are several things worth noting. First, there are links to social media, to her curriculum vitae, and an article about her in Wikipedia. You can see that there's also a link to her research laboratory under the Research tab. And if we click on the Files tab, there are some nice photos in her image gallery. But the profile feature that I especially want to highlight is the SPN Mentor designation under the Teaching tab. This means that the expert is willing to offer free career advice and assistance to students from underrepresented groups as defined in this box. To receive that assistance, you just visit the SPN Mentorship Program page and follow the instructions. There are over 500 mentors to choose from worldwide, and we've set it up so that students can even geo-search the database. For example, if we go to the map of profiled experts and we choose Europe, we get a map of SPN profile holders, which we can then limit to mentors with expertise in, for example, let's choose personality psychology. And there you go. With respect to the mentorship program, all I ask is that you please don't contact Professor Banaji because I don't want to flood her with requests as a result of showing her profile in this video. Well, that's a lot of ground that we've covered, geographically and otherwise, so let's pause for a pop-up question. Hello again. In an earlier lecture video, I mentioned inviting you to join Social Psychology Network, which I very much hope that you'll do. But let me say up front that unlike the course, joining the network is not free, and I understand that some of you may not have the resources to join or may not have the desire. That's okay. Everyone is welcome to take this course and use the resources in Social Psychology Network for free, regardless of whether you're a member or not. But for those of you who can afford to join, I want to strongly ask that you do, for two reasons. First, it helps us cover the cost of offering all the resources and services shown in this video. Neither Wesleyan nor I receive any funds from SPN memberships. 100% of the money goes toward resources for students and other users of the network. Second, Coursera students who join the network will be given their own SPN page, very similar actually to the professional profiles I showed you earlier, but with an extra feature. Through a special arrangement, Coursera students with an SPN member page will have the option of displaying their course certificate directly on their network page, which can be used when applying for jobs or internships, or really any situation in which you want to display credentials and experience that might relate to psychology, education, business, health, and so on. How much does it cost to join a network? A basic membership is $25 per calendar year, but for Coursera learners, we've dropped the membership rate to $10 per year, or free if you're taking this course for a certificate. That is, if you purchase the course from Coursera, it comes with a free membership in Social Psychology Network. To purchase the course, simply sign in to your Coursera account, visit the list of courses you've enrolled in, choose to purchase Social Psychology, and then, after a 24-hour processing period, visit our course page and click on Join Social Psychology Network under the Resources area on the left. So I hope that you join the network. We would love, love, love to have you as a member if it doesn't present a financial burden. There's a Join the Network button right on our course page, and when you complete the snapshot quiz, you'll also be given an opportunity to join the network or just complete the quiz. And either way, all the instructions are right there. Please complete the snapshot quiz before watching any further videos. And then once you're done, you're most welcome to watch the next video, which is on the psychological construction of reality. It should be a fun video. One of the most basic questions we can ask about two people is whether they share the same reality, whether they see the same thing when they're both looking at it, whether they hear the same thing when they're both listening to it. In daily life, we typically assume that other people share our reality, and to a great extent they do. But not always, and not completely. Our perceptions are powerfully influenced by where our attention happens to be, by context, by past experience, expectations, motivations, and many other factors. In other words, our experience of reality is psychologically constructed. I spoke about this principle when I pointed out that the cards in our course image contain a surprise that most people don't notice. A black 10 of diamonds instead of the normal red. You can see the same sort of thing in this photo of a drive-through sign that says over 99 billion served. See anything strange? Most people don't see anything wrong with this photo until it's pointed out that the restaurant's name says McDonald's rather than McDonald's. When we look at restaurant signs, we don't usually spell check them any more than we need to check the color of playing cards. Or take a look at this photo. Most people see this image as showing an ordinary handshake and leave it at that. Why? We don't usually need to count the number of fingers in a handshake. We often see what we expect to see and don't see what we don't expect to see. But perception isn't just a matter of expectations, it's also a matter of motivations. That is, we often see what we want to see and don't see what we don't want to see. This dynamic was illustrated in a classic 1954 study of two American football rivals, Princeton and Dartmouth. After an especially rough football game with lots of penalties, the researchers asked students at each school to watch the very same film of the game and record each rule violation that they saw. The results? Princeton students saw Dartmouth break the rules over twice as often as Dartmouth students did. That is, they saw a different reality. According to the researchers, it's inaccurate and misleading to say that different people have different attitudes concerning the same thing, for the thing simply is not the same for different people, whether the thing is a football game, a presidential candidate, communism, or spinach. That's a colorful way of putting it, but again, we come back to the psychological construction of reality. The idea that our perceptions are affected by what we expect to see, by what we want to see, by what we're paying attention to, and so forth. One of my all-time favorite examples illustrating this point comes from British psychologist and professional magician Richard Weissman, who has generously made available to our class a video of his color-changing card trick. So let's watch a master magician both entertain and educate us at the same time. Hope you enjoy.
Hi, I'm Richard, this is Sarah, and we're going to perform the amazing colour-changing card trick with this blue-backed deck of cards. Now the idea is very simple. I'm just going to spread the cards in front of Sarah and ask her to push any card towards the camera.
Right, okay, let's see. I'm going to go for this card here.
Okay. Now Sarah could have selected any card at all from the deck, but she selected the card which is now face down on the table. And what I'm going to ask her to do is show us which card she selected.
Right, so the card that I chose was in fact the 3 of diamonds.
The 3 of diamonds, okay, an excellent choice. That card goes back into the deck. Now I'm just going to spread the cards face up on the table, give a little click of the fingers, and you'll see that Sarah's card here has now got a blue back. Not particularly surprising. What's slightly more surprising is all of the other cards have got red backs. And that is the amazing colour-changing card trick. Hi, I'm Richard, this is Sarah, and we're going to perform the amazing colour-changing card trick with this blue-backed deck of cards. Now the idea is very simple. I'm just going to spread the cards in front of Sarah and ask her to push any card towards the camera.
Right, okay, let's see. I'm going to go for this card here.
Okay. Now Sarah could have selected any card at all from the deck, but she selected the card which is now face down on the table. And what I'm going to ask her to do is show us which card she selected.
Right, so the card that I chose was in fact the 3 of diamonds.
The 3 of diamonds, okay, an excellent choice. That card goes back into the deck. Now I'm just going to spread the cards face up on the table, give a little click of the fingers, and you'll see that Sarah's card here has now got a blue back. Not particularly surprising. What's slightly more surprising is all of the other cards have got red backs. And that is the amazing colour-changing card trick.
Isn't that terrific? The color-changing card trick is an example of what psychologists call change blindness. In this case, it was blindness to changes in color made while our attention was focused elsewhere. But perceptions can also be influenced even when our attention is focused directly on the item of interest. Here's an example that I created specifically for this class. This is just a black and white field with a tree and a fence. Not very interesting or colorful, so I'll add an apple to the tree. Well, that's a little large. There, that's better. Now, there's an old expression about the grass being greener on the other side of the fence, meaning that the things we don't have often seem a little better, and that's what I want you to focus on. I'm going to cover up the grass on the other side of the fence with a nice bright color, and I want you to keep your eyes focused on the apple and your thoughts focused on turning the grass green. And let me be clear, I'm not going to change the black and white photo in any way. I'm not going to add more apples to the tree or do anything to the fence. I just want you to look at the apple and concentrate on the part of the photo that's covered up. In a few seconds, I'll remove the cover, and when I do, please continue looking at the apple in the tree, and you should see something interesting. Ready? Here we go. And again, please continue looking at the apple even after I've removed the cover. 1, 2, 3. If you have color vision, the grass should indeed be greener on the other side of the fence, at least for a little while. If you look away from the apple for a few seconds, the effect will start to fade, and you'll see that the photo is just the same one that I showed you at first. What happened is that staring at the magenta-colored background temporarily fatigued your eye's photoreceptors for that color. which knocked your color perception a little bit off base. If before this demonstration I had asked you whether there was any circumstance under which your eyes would have seen half of a black and white photo as green, you probably would have said no. It sounds kind of crazy. Why? Because we generally regard photographic images as generating fixed perceptions. We don't think of our visual perceptions as a combination of something out there with what's going on in our visual system at the time of perception. But in fact, that's exactly what vision is. And it's not just a matter of color. Here's a black and white example of how our view of the world can be warped in under 30 seconds. This example comes from Professor Michael Bach at the University of Freiburg in Germany. All you need to do is stare at the center of the spirals and don't look away. Keep looking, even though it's a little bit hard to do. You don't need to concentrate. Just let your eyes comfortably rest on the center of the spirals. As you do this, your neural motion detectors will adapt to the movement, and in just a few seconds, when you look away, your visual system will be basically thrown into reverse, and you'll temporarily experience what's called a motion after effect. Okay? You can look away now. Pretty amazing, huh? Let's pause for a wavy pop-up question. So to summarize, our perceptions are a joint function of what's going on out there and what's going on over here. An optical illusion that offers, I think, a very nice metaphor for this interplay is the rotating snakes illusion that was created by Akiyoshi Kitaoka of Japan. The coils that seem to be moving are supposed to be snakes, but I actually think of them as gear wheels. If you focus on just one corner of the image, you can see that the gears aren't actually moving, but our mental gears turn when we look at the image as a whole. Even something as basic as line length can be distorted, as the famous Ponzo illusion shows. Here you can see that the two lines are identical in length, but when you change the context, most people see the top line as slightly wider than the bottom line. Illusions like this work in part because our visual system has evolved to see a particular world, a world in which, for example, converging lines indicate distance. Our visual system isn't neutral, and when we give it a world in which converging lines don't indicate distance, it still makes the correction that the lines aren't of equal length, even when in fact they are. And this too is a good metaphor for how people function with one another in daily life. That is, people aren't neutral. Instead, they come in with certain predispositions, certain tendencies that lead them to process social information in very particular ways. When you show people a photo of children, they naturally process facial information to see whether the children are happy or sad. When we see a close-up of someone's face, we wonder automatically what the person might be thinking, whether the person seems dangerous or friendly, and so on. Usually these processes are automatic and beneficial. Certainly there's an evolutionary benefit to knowing as rapidly as possible whether your kids are okay or whether a stranger poses a threat. But when we're focused on one thing, that means we're not focused on another. It means we can miss things, even fairly large things. If we don't notice that someone's mouth is upside down or that someone's eyes have been flipped around, what else are we missing when we try to read each other's faces for much more subtle things and interact with each other on a day-to-day basis? It's a question we'll explore in the next two videos when we discuss confirmation biases and a close cousin, self-fulfilling prophecies.